Thank you. Time is now 7:31. I will call this meeting of the Yardley Borough Council to order. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mary Ann, if you could proceed with our roll call.
Thompson. Ms. Siegel Morris.
Here.
Mr. Ross.
Here.
Steiner.
Here.
Mr. McCann.
Here.
Mr. Curtin.
Present.
And Mr. Bria.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 members of council present, that constitutes a quorum. We're also joined by Mayor Harding this evening. First item on the agenda is community announcements. This would be an opportunity for any member of council to announce an item for the public good that they wish to share. Any member of council have an item they want to share for community announcements?
Yeah, David, I'd like to just take a minute and acknowledge the unfortunate passing of a longtime borough resident and a good friend, Dave Boker, who passed away over the weekend. Dave is my neighbor and someone I've known for over 25 years. I grew up with his son and have been privileged to live next to Dave and Sandy for the past 8 years. As I said, he lived in the borough for 55 years. Pre-COVID, he and Sandy were very active in the community and involved with the traffic calming measures on North Main Street, and regular attendees at borough council activities and other committees in our community. He personally was very involved with Friends of Lake Afton, and something that his son David has picked up and is running with. So just wanted to extend condolences publicly because of David's service and history with the borough to Sandy and to David and Stacy and David and Carly. Funeral is on Saturday, and they've asked at Fitzgerald Sommer, and they've asked that in lieu of flowers, any contributions go to Friends of Lake Afton. So just thought I would mention that and throw it out there because I know it's something of public interest. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have an announcement as well. Just thank you for mentioning that. I wasn't aware of that, so I'm sad to hear that, but I appreciate you mentioning it, and good people. So I just wanted to bring up something that a lot of people don't know in the community, which is that a way to support the businesses, especially now that things are coming back online, is that there's an e-gift card that you can buy the card, and anyone, you can use it, and I think it's 11 local businesses, might be more than that. But you go to the website for Experience Yardley, which is experienceyardley.com. And then there's a link on there that says donations and gift cards. And then you can click on buy and Experience Yardley e-gift cards. And it just makes a great gift, and it's a good way to support the community.
Thank you for sharing that information. Mr. Vichalis, I see you raising your hand. Go ahead and mute yourself and share.
Thank you very much, David. There was a longtime resident who lived next to us, who lived here when my wife Inge and I moved here in 1979. The family was Bud and Barbara Hughes with their daughter and son. And several years ago, Barbara moved in with her son because of advancing age. And I just wanted to mention for anybody who might be listening in the borough that knew the Hugheses, especially Barbara, that she passed because of COVID complications about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. She's a very wonderful person and actually helped take care of our children when they were very, very young. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vichalis. Any other items for community announcements from either council or the public? Actually, Chief Kelly, I see you with the hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. We have one this Saturday, April 24th. The Yardley Borough Police Department will host our biannual drug take back with about 48 other locations in the county. So between 10 and 2 this Saturday, if you have unused medications, expired medications, please bring them by police headquarters. Or if you're not from the borough, find your closest location in the county. There's basically at least one in every town. And then the county will also have, through the Bucks County Drug and Alcohol Commission page, 3 locations where you can pick up Narcan and also get rid of Sharps, which is a new addition to the program. That's all, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
David, sorry, I did have one thing I forgot to mention. I ended on Friends of Lake Afton. It is also their cleanup day on Saturday from 8 to 12. And so, that's an annual thing. It's socially distanced and people do a good job, but we also get dirty and it's fun. Bring your kids and your own tools. But many hands make light work. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, and before we wrap up, one item that I'm going to share that we may end up addressing a little bit later in the meeting, and we discussed in Public Works today also, was that Yardley, it was announced on Friday, would be receiving $312,000 from the multimodal grant through PennDOT. That will be towards the completion of phase 2 of the North Main Sidewalk project. So more information on that to come, but it's safe to say with that amount of money being received through the grant program, we expect to see some progress on that project this year. All right, so one last call. Any community announcements before we move on? Great, hearing none, we will move on to the public comment portion of the meeting. This is the portion of the meeting during which members of the public may address council regarding items that do not appear on the agenda. If you wish to address council regarding an item that does appear on the agenda, you will be given the opportunity to do so during council's deliberation of that particular business item. Members of the public are asked to please state their name and address for the record before making their comments. And please be reminded that comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. If you'd like to be acknowledged, please use the raise hand function in Zoom. And if you have trouble with that, just turn your video on and wave at us. Someone will catch you. All right, do we have any public comment this evening? Going once, going twice. You all listened to me give that speech for nothing. We will close the public comment portion of the meeting. Next item is consideration of the consent agenda for today, April 20th. I will read off the items that are included in the consent agenda. That's approval of the minutes from our April 6th meeting, approval of the bills lists for today, April 20th. There are 2 certificates of appropriateness, 21-9 for siding at 55 East Afton Avenue and 21-11 for a fence at 37 South Main Street. There's an event permit for Yardley's Carry the Load. There is another event permit for the Experience Yardley's Carvathon and Canaloween. And then we have 2 appointments to boards and commissions. Constance Webster for an appointment to the Zoning Hearing Board with a term ending December 31st, 2021. And Susan Taylor for an appointment to the Planning Commission with a term ending December 31st, 2021. Would any member of council like one of these items to be considered separately?
Just have a correction on the agenda, just to make sure the writing reflects what you just said, which was correct, which is that on my agenda, it says Planning Commission term ending 12/3/2021, and it should say 12/31/2021. So there's no confusion about that.
Thank you. Yes, correct for Susan Taylor's proposed term, Planning Commission ending 12/31/2021.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. So hearing no request to consider an item separately, is there a motion from a member of council to approve tonight's consent agenda?
So moved. I'll second it then.
Motion from Mr. McCann, seconded by Mr. Ross. Are there any comments or discussion from council? All right, I don't see any. Are there any comments or discussion from the public? I see a hand. Ms. Perlmutter, unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hi, I just had some questions on the bills list. There's check number 19100 for Armor and Sons Electric for $18,484. Is that part of that intersection project? It seems like a high amount.
Thank you. And I'm going to defer to Paula. Do you have that handy? I'm pulling it up right now as we speak.
Yes, it is the intersection.
Okay, and just one other question, the Pennsylvania One call, check number 19112. What was that for?
We get billed for Pennsylvania One calls when we have to respond.
What did you have to
It's-
respond? What was it?
Anybody who does PA One calls, that's a normal monthly bill.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Thank you. Did any other questions or comments from the public? We're hearing none. I will call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries 6-0. And before we move on, I just want to pause to say congratulations to both Connie Webster and Susan Taylor on their new appointments to our Yardley Borough Boards and Commissions. And Paula, you'll handle welcome letters, information of that sort.
Yes, sir.
Great.
I echo that, and I want to thank both of you for stepping up and volunteering.
Yes, I know both applicants, and I can safely say that we are all happy to have them aboard. And moving on, our next agenda item is a report from Police Chief Kelly.
No report tonight, thanks, sir.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll move on to Manager Johnson's report.
Just a few things tonight. We have a new company that's going to be taking care of our credit cards, and there's going to be no service fees or anything to the borough. And they're actually going to be helping us put something onto our website so that anybody can go on and pay things from home. Stuff like garbage fees, zoning permits, building permits, anything like that. Our website is also going to be getting a total overhaul thanks to FZ Media, who came into our office last week and offered to do this for free, which I thought was a pretty good price. Municipal trash cans have been ordered. They are going to be black. I did check with Harb, and that's what they liked as well. And we have 2 zoning hearing board meetings next Monday. 2 hearings, I should say, one for 25 South Main, the other one for 19 West College. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. And, you know, if you have the number handy, Paul, I know we talked about it, but the estimated savings on that credit card processing change.
It was about $1,500.
All right, we will take that. Any questions for Paula on the report? All right, hearing none, we'll close that portion of the meeting and move on to our solicitor's report. Mr. Glosser.
Thank you. I have no report this evening.
Keep it moving. Mayor Harding, your report.
No report this evening, but hopefully there's an item on the agenda and I'll have a big report for you in 2 weeks. So thank you.
Sounds good to me. All right, moving on to council member reports. We'll begin with Mr. Curtin.
No report, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
All right, I have a report, but I'll keep it short. Public Works met this evening, and we discussed the sidewalk and the Mary Yardley Bridge. So both projects are moving forward wonderfully, especially with that grant that we just received. We're still waiting on news for another grant that we applied for that we should be hearing from for the next few days. So both projects are looking to get done in the summer, which is fantastic. And that concludes my report.
Good news there. Ms. Siegel Morris.
Nothing to report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. For myself, I already mentioned earlier in the meeting, and we heard from Mr. Ross as well, that we received that multimodal grant from PennDOT for the sidewalk. We also were notified that we'd be receiving a FEMA grant this week. It's for a little north of $2 million and will elevate 8 homes in the floodplain. So we await the details for that, but certainly look forward to continuing those long ongoing projects. And that concludes my report. Ms. Thompson is not with us tonight, so we'll move on to Mr. McCann.
No report.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Finer.
Nothing in addition to what we already went over. Thank you.
All right, moving on to discussion items. I believe actually this was set to be Ms. Thompson's discussion item, but council boards committee meetings. There have been some questions about when we would be returning to in-person meetings and moving away from the Zoom setting. So I guess we can entertain a little bit of discussion about that now. But just by way of introduction, my thoughts on this process were that given how small our physical council meeting room is, and the basic technological setup that we have there, I'll put it that way, in terms of streaming, the best course of action for us in Yardley would probably be to remain in a virtual setting until we are safely into a time frame where if you don't have a vaccine, it's because you've chosen not to get one. A lot of folks are still waiting, so I feel a return to in-person at this point anyway would be premature. However, that could change in the next coming months. But I am curious how the rest of council feels as we near a time when we might start bringing things back to normal. So if anyone has any thoughts on that, would like to hear them.
I'll just jump in with, I agree with your sentiment about the vaccines and probably the meeting area. And, you know, it seems like there's a time period away where it certainly is going to be reasonable. And, you know, if there was ever a time anyone wanted, you know, if there was a potential to meet outside too, that would be a fantastic idea in this lovely spring weather. But I know that weather is, and it may not work with technology and some of the things we need, but I welcome your statements, and I think, you know, it's very prudent, you know, and I could see what you're, and I would agree with the sentiment about vaccines as well.
David, I had a question. This may be something for Bucky. I'm just curious. You guys probably dealt with this before I joined council, but is there guidance from the state around recommendations for these types of things, or is it really left to each municipality to decide on their own? Just curious if that's a factor at all.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any overarching directives at this point as far as how municipalities handle, you know, coming back in person and having in-person meetings. You know, I'm seeing it, you know, I'm seeing some municipalities start to have like the council members or the supervisors in person in the meeting room, but still have, you know, access through, you know, Zoom or some other platform for public comment and that sort of thing. You know, but at this point, I'm not aware of any municipalities that have fully gone back to, you know, open meetings in person. So I think it's a case-by-case basis, and depending on the facilities and that sort of thing, all that comes into play.
Thank you.
And Bucky, as I recall, when we moved to the virtual setting, was that, I believe it was that tied to the emergency declaration that we were allowed to meet in this setting as long as that was in place?
That's correct. So as long as the governor's emergency declaration is in effect, the law allowing, you know, virtual meetings is still in effect.
That's what I was looking for. So there was something that allowed us to do it, but it didn't require us to do it. And that's the part I missed. So thank you, David, for clarifying that.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said so far. I think that's a good point at which, I mean, I wouldn't jump the gun. If there's an emergency declaration, we just should respect that. But when that ends, that's a good time to say, well, you know, are the conditions right? But I would say that one thing that it brings up is not that we're looking for more expenses around Borough Hall, but it could be that we don't know what the long-term issue is. But if you look at the past pandemic that happened 100 years ago, the result was a lot more construction that created a higher degree of airflow. And then that was kind of forgotten about. And it's very likely that that's going to be outcome now. So you have, you know, some places that are doing a lot of work on their ventilation system. I think Borough Hall has baseboard heat, not forced air, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not. That might be a good thing, might be a bad thing. But my question really comes down to, has there been any consideration to like airflow in Borough Hall? Because that might be something that we need to be looking at for the future.
Right. I don't think specifically it's something we've looked at. I know that I've spoken with Paula and a little bit with our engineer as well about sort of the greater need to look at renovations in Borough Hall. And those cost figures are in a range where we're going to need significant grant support from the state in order to do something like that. But it is on our radar, but I think more in a 5 to 10 year timeline than anything immediate, which isn't to say that there aren't short-term things we might look at, particularly as we see what the spending guidelines are on the rescue plan money. We're still waiting to hear on those sorts of things. So we're thinking about it, just not with that level of specificity yet.
Yeah, it's a good point that maybe some of that, we don't know what's going to happen, but with either existing rescue money or maybe infrastructure money, if that happens, that maybe some of that could be allocated through grants to some of those types of like openable windows. I mean, there are windows. Probably there's probably tons of airflow in Borough Hall because it's an old building, so that might be a benefit. But maybe just something to consider as those things become available. We could benefit from that in multiple ways.
All right. All right. Thank you, everyone. I think we can put a pin in the discussion about returning to in-person meetings.
Hey, David.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I jump in for one quick second? I think it just needs to be said. You're killing it with these Zoom meetings too. So congratulations. You've got it down to a science. So we all appreciate it. And, when we go back, we go back. But for right now, you have led us properly. So thank you for that over the past months.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll tell you, I will be probably the most anxious to get back in person because there are moments where I am talking to my computer screen and think, oh man, I hope that they're all still there. So I'm looking forward to getting back, but I do appreciate it. This has certainly been different for all of us. All right, moving on, we have 2 items under other business. I'm going to defer most of these to Liz from our engineer since she did not have a report tonight. So Liz, if you want to start us off with that EAC grant payment.
Sure. So we are still struggling to get the first reimbursement through because the EAC is utilizing some pre-grant work as their in-kind match. So it's just being scrutinized. However, ASA has been moving forward with their work and they just submitted their 3rd invoice and their 2nd invoice still hasn't been paid. So I was asked to see if the borough would be willing to kind of pay that now, but you will be reimbursed for it eventually. We're just unclear of what that timeline will be as we still haven't been successful with the first reimbursement.
All right. Do we hear a motion regarding the payment of that EAC grant invoice?
Can I just ask how much it is real quick, just so everybody can know and be on record and all?
Yeah, sure. Where is the total? $7,451.76. And this covers the installation of all the stream gauges that they put into Buck Creek, as well as they performed a survey of Lake Afton itself, and we have received all of that documentation from them already.
David, I'd like to make a motion to front the payment of this to keep the project moving.
Second.
All right, great. We have a motion from Mr. Curtin, seconded by Mr. Ross, to make a payment in the amount of $7,451.76 to ASA, and that's in relation to the EAC project. Do we have any questions, comments, discussion from council? Any from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, 6-0, the motion passes. The next item is payment on the Afton intersection.
Yep, so this is the final payment, and this includes the pedestrian poles and some conduit. So that's why it's about $18,000. But this will close out Main and Afton officially, and then we'll be able to close out the Green Light Go grant and be done with it.
All right, great. Do we hear a motion for that payment?
Oh, yep, I'll make the motion to pay that invoice for the amount that was set.
Second.
$18,484.45.
Okay, great. We had a motion from Mr. Ross and Mr. Finer. Are you the one that seconded that?
I did for the specified amount.
Yes, for the $18,484.45. Any discussion, comments, questions from council?
Hey, Liz, just real quick, can you just confirm how this works? So this is money that we've received for the grant from, you'll tell me the source, PennDOT or whatever the right source is, and now we're paying for the service that was done. Is that the right way to think about it?
No, so we already received all of the grant funding for the Green Light Go. The cost of the project exceeded the amount that PennDOT decided that it was going to be. So this is just us paying for it. We received the final disbursement of the grant. This is just what's left over on completing the project.
Okay, and was this a surprise? I guess I don't have all the history of this. So was this a surprise that this is, or we knew this was coming?
No, we knew this was coming. Basically, part of it was we did a rush to get through the invoice to get up to what the Green Light Go grant was, because we had to have that through by June. So there was some stuff that was done a while ago that they were sort of holding, and it is a little bit confusing with it, but no, we reviewed all of the quantities, everything looked correct. It was work that was done, and this is just the last piece. It's trailing a bit because we were waiting on payroll certifications from Armor. We don't process payment certificates until we have their payroll to verify that they paid prevailing wages. So it was really just an admin thing on their end. The work's been done for a while.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this was, as I recall, a bit strange because we got the grant money and then we had a very short window in which to actually pay for things.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was all planned and I'll be glad when it's done. Green Light Go has been going on since before I started on council, so.
Really that long, David? Wow.
Yes, be nice to put this one to rest when we get there. Any other questions or comments from either council or the public? All right, hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries 6-0.
I saw a question pop up in the chat. I believe it's from a resident, or is it from Mary? Oh, it's Mary. It's going to Armor and Sons.
All right. That concludes our regularly scheduled business for tonight. So unless a member of council would like to raise another item for discussion, I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, motion by Mr. Ross, seconded by Mr. McCann. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, that sounds like most of you. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.